Whoa, ladies and gentlemen, and assembled company. Welcome to the World Storytelling Cafe and a particularly probably crazy evening, or unpredictable, maybe a more polite way of introducing Órla McGovern and Mia. And it's going to be somewhat unusual, which Órla will of course explain to you why. But for the moment, we're getting rid of pictures of you. It's not because we don't want to see you, but it's because it will work better with the magic of the scene. And I pass everything over to you.
Thank you, John. Hi, everyone. I just ask if everyone switch off their video if they're not me in Galway. Just turn off your videos, and I will explain to you what's going to happen. I am joined on the screen by my lovely friend. Oh, she's gone away, but I'll bring her back. Don't worry. I'll tell you what we're doing first. We are going to do something tonight, a little experimental called the interrupted story. So if you I'm just going to hide non-video participants. That will make it easier. There we go. Hide non-video participants, and we'll be able to do that. So we're going to do the interrupted story, and the interrupted story means a lot of things. As storytellers, we know that the most important part of our exchange is our listeners, our audience, and they listen to us and they follow us. And we also know, I think, that what makes us a little bit different to scripted theatre, one of the things that makes us different to theatre or other art forms, is that we have an interaction with our audience. We have an exchange always with our audience. And when we do that, we also improvise. If somebody drops a glass at the other end of the room, very often that'll weave itself in to our story. And it's that breathing, that conversation that we're really excited about. So myself and my lovely friend Mia, who I will introduce in a moment, we do a lot of improvisation together. If I can just ask everyone to, there's a button at the top. Maybe we can, Bianca, you can just hide non-video participants. I think you might need to do that on your end. And that way we won't see little boxes popping up. We'll just see the people talking. So I'm going to introduce you to my lovely friend, Mia Muller, who is in Denmark, in Copenhagen. And we met through improvised theatre. And Mia is also a storyteller as well. So Mia, do you want to maybe say a little bit about what you do? Because nobody maybe doesn't know you.
Yes, I am an improviser, first of all. And I also teach improv and form theater, and I'm also a dramaturg. I studied drama at university, so I like all kinds of aspects of theater, both the storytelling way and the improvising way, and the way of a learning tool for everyday life and working life. And I've done improv since the year 2000, I think. So it's quite a long time.
Quite a long time. And we were involved in a couple of lovely projects together, which a lot of them had storytelling. We worked on the Our Lives project together, which was, we took a performer from one of each from 28 different countries, and Mia was the Danish ambassador and I was the Irish ambassador, and we got together and we made some stories, some improvised pieces, some lovely things together, and it was a huge community. And what we're going to do is we're going to hopefully we can just spotlight Mia. If it doesn't work, we're going to just ask Mia to start off. Just tell us a story. So maybe you can just tell us what you'd like.
Yes, and I must admit here that Órla, she prepared me for this one. She asked me, could you bring a little story that was not improvised? So just to make it clear that this is not improvised. Some people might have heard it before in Danish. And it was improvised the first time I told it, in the darkness. It was like storytelling in the darkness. So this is a story about somebody who doesn't want to be interrupted in a very unusual way, I think. So let's see how it goes. She was pregnant, very, very, very pregnant. She was like 8.5 months, and she was so big and beautiful. And her husband, John, thought that her stomach was so beautiful and round, like a gigantic football. And he would listen to her stomach, and he would hear the little baby play inside the stomach. Everything was how it should be, so romantic and so wonderful. Two people in love just waiting to build this nest, the baby. 9 months, she began to feel the pain inside her. She was in labor. And she came to the hospital and everything was fine and they had been prepared and she was pushing in this very moment. She was pushing and pushing and pushing for days. But nobody came out. She kept pushing and pushing, and John was talking and talking to the baby, please, will you come out? And nobody came out. They could still hear the movement inside and see how it was still alive. But months passed by, and days and hours and minutes. Nobody wanted to come out. The baby wanted to stay in her mother's womb. So that's why they decided to go home from the hospital and accept that this girl inside her would not be interrupted. They named her Lisa. Oh, she was a wonderful, wonderful baby. Every time and every day, her mother would read aloud while Lisa was lying inside her still. When she went to the mother's group, it was always a little bit weird that everybody would have their babies next to them, but they all accepted that Lisa would stay inside, and they talked to her and they put the other babies inside her so they could all play in her womb. And she grew bigger and bigger. It was so nice to have this little playground in her womb. Months and years passed by. She came to kindergarten and play groups, and everybody knew that Lisa would not come out, but she would still accept to have friends inside. And they would play and they would have fun. And the mother grew bigger and bigger because Lisa also grew bigger. And she was so big, she had to give up her job because now she had to live this life with Lisa inside her. First school day came. Oh, it was a wonderful day. All the other kids thought it was a bit weird that a mother was sitting in the class, but then they knew that Lisa would not come out and she would accept the lessons from within inside her. She passed her exams and everything was fine. And then one day she met Christopher. Christopher was a young man, 18, and Lisa was 18 years too. And they fell in love while he was inside her womb. And there, they decided they wanted to get married. Oh my God, this marriage was so wonderful and romantic, and all their friends and family were inside. And the mother got bigger and bigger and bigger, but wow, what a wedding. Not to talk about their house, how the furniture came in, and how she still got bigger and bigger, but what a wonderful, wonderful house they had with inside the womb. And everything was fine. And one day, Lisa was also getting pregnant. So this was like a baby with inside the baby, and that baby also decided to stay inside. So it was a wonderful, wonderful world in here. And everything went fine. And that is how actually Mother Earth came to the world. And this is a true story about Mother Earth. Thank you.
Woohoo! I love it. Thank you so much. Brilliant. I'm going to tell a little story, and I think I actually may have told this story here before. I'm going to tell a story, but a friend of mine requested that I do this. And this story that I'm going to tell really fits about being interrupted. So I'll just see if I can make myself. There we go. I can see me now. And this story is about perhaps interrupting somebody in not a very nice way. Sometimes when we're playing practical jokes or we're playing around with somebody, we don't really think of the other person's feelings. So there's a little subtext of somebody being interrupted, but hopefully you'll find the subtext in this as well. And this is a story that comes from a rhyme. And it's a rhyme that we would use if we were skipping or we were playing with those elastics that you put around your legs when you're a kid and you jump in and out of them. And they have a different name in every country, this game. In Ireland, when I was growing up, we called them German jumps. And in other places, they're called French skipping or Chinese skipping. So it's all these different names for this one particular game. Yeah, everybody's recognizing. Yeah, if you remember it now, you jump in between the two elastics and then you do all sorts of crazy stuff. So this is a rhyme that you might sing when you're playing that particular game. And I'm going to tell it as a story. And if you know the story, and I think, John, a couple of you might know it, you can join in with the bits you know in your own time. And you can shout them at the ceiling. I'll trust that you're shouting them at the ceiling when you're there. This old man lived up our street. He's the grumpiest fella that you ever would meet. When you knock on his door with a rat-a-tat-tat, sure he'd roar out the window, "Go on out of that!" He ate fried sausages for his tea and he'd never give any to you nor me. If your ball went over, that was that. You'd never get it back from, "Go on out of that!" He had a little budgie called Kidney Pie, and she was the apple of his eye. But one day, Kidney Pie flew out, got stuck in my Nana's chimney spout. We clapped our hands and gave her a fright, and up she flew into the night. We caught her in me cousin Johnny's jacket. Oh, she made an awful squawk and racket. So down we went to, "Go on out of that!" And we knocked on his door with a rat-a-tat-tat. "What's all this?" said, "Go on out of that, with you knocking on me door with a rat-a-tat-tat." But under me arm was a bird so black, peeping out from an old coal sack, covered in soot from a chimney pot, but happy as Larry that she was caught. "Oh, Kidney Pie, you've come back home. You didn't leave me all alone." And we saw a little tear come to his eye as back in the house flew Kidney Pie. He thanked us all, said we were great, and he gave us the sausages off his plate. "That's your reward for stopping by and rescuing my Kidney Pie. How do yous do? My name is Pat. No more I'll say, go on out of that. Now yous are all me nicest friends. I'll find a way to make amends." Next thing, over his back wall came 37 lost footballs. "There you go," said old man Pat, and he closed the door, and that was that. Now years they come and years they go, and some jump high and some jump low. But I'm never too old to tip me hat to the man we called, "Go on out of that." And that's my story. Thank you. That is a story. So I don't know if you did it in Denmark, Mia, but we had this terrible thing where you would knock on somebody's door and run away and hide, or ring their doorbell. And that's also got different names all over the world. Ring and run, Nick the Knocker, we used to call it in Dublin. If anybody remembers it, stick it in the chat. Definitely, ring and run was the more modern version where you rang the doorbell. But yeah, it was a bit rude to old people going knocking on their door and they get out of their chair every 5 minutes.
I did that, Órla, a lot when I was a kid. I also rang people. I found this number that was like a random number And actually, for weeks and months and years, I would keep calling that with my friend and saying, "Oh, we just want an interview with you, Michael." And it was getting a little bit like we were not very old. And one day they said, "We actually expect a very important call from the hospital." And that was my last call to them. But I was just a kid, and we thought it was so funny to keep talking about an interview with Michael.
Absolutely. I definitely did
Yes.
that as well with phones. You're bringing back all the dark memories. Oh, I'll have to put them somewhere, make a story out of them. So I think what we'd like to do is we'd like to talk about when we improvise stories together. Me and I do a lot of improv together whenever we get a chance. And there's the notion of interrupting somebody's very rude in storytelling, but there's also that we wondered about that notion of is there a way where it can be fun? And that's something that we would use in improv. So I think what we'd like to do is we'd like to tell a story together and try and steal the story away from the other person. So maybe if we in the chat, we're going to get a title for this story. So can we have an adjective, something descriptive, a descriptive word? As anybody wants to put it in the chat, they can type it in the chat. Something like hairy, bouncy, slyly. The sly, great. We can use the sly, great. Lovely. The sly, and let's get a noun. Just a thing. Hold on, I'm seeing lots of strange things. I have to put my glass. The sly hat. Excellent. What is sly? Sly is like a fox. Somebody's asking. It's cunning, sly. So you're using your wits, but sometimes it's a little bit negative, but maybe not. And we see yellow. So I see hat. I see hat. So the sly hat. So Mia, you want to start the sly hat, and then I will take the story from you, and you can take it back.
The sly hat was so fat and so beautiful and gorgeous at the same time. The sly hat was very fat, and everybody wanted that hat. It was thick and hairy. It was like when you put it on, you would feel like a lot of heat from like a Russian hat, the Russian hats. And everybody wanted
this hat. But the sly hat, remember, was also the sly hat. And the sly hat had gotten her name because when you put her on your head, she could steal all of your ideas. And then she would go and sell them.
Last year, she sold a very important idea. It was the idea of how the whole internet should work. And she got that amount of money. She took all this hat. And the ideas that you have last week, and maybe you think nobody knows your ideas, but they are already taken by the sly
hat. And if you notice sometimes when you were about to go out the door, and you put your hat on, and all of a sudden you've forgotten your keys or you've forgotten your purse. This is because the sly hat has many cousins. They're not quite as sly, but they're sly-ish hats, and they live
happily ever after. When you sleep at night, you might not think that you're wearing a hat, but the sly hat crawls under the bed and on the top of your head and steals your dreams, your nightmares, all your ideas. It takes out when you don't remember
a thing. The sly hat many years ago stole from a young inventor in the Czech Republic the secret to invisibility. And that's why she can sneak around so easily and crawl on your head at night. The sly hat stole
your fat ideas. Last night, your idea was taken, and you don't know what idea it is because you lost it. A very, very important idea is already flying away from you until somebody else will take it.
And sometimes the sly hat, because she's very fat, she will belch and burp because she has eaten too many ideas. And when she burps, those ideas float up into the air and maybe will land in your head. And maybe
Not. 20 years later, in the future, where we are not yet, nobody ever gets ideas but this sly hat. The sly hat has stolen all the human ideas and turned them into its own. The sly hat is a computer on your fat leg, taking and sucking all your ideas.
the sly hat is on Mia's head right now. Otherwise, how would she know what's in the future? The sly hat is so sly that Mia can't even feel it on her own head in Denmark.
I thought I had an idea, but now it's gone. Oh my God, I cannot go on telling stories, Órla.
Mia, put your hands up to your head and lift. 1, 2, 3. And the sly hat will be gone as quickly as it came, and back to Mia's brain will come her lovely creative ideas, and she will tell you about things you'd never heard before. Sometimes the sly hat steals your voice. Sometimes you have to rub your tummy 5 times very fast, and then the voice will come flying, or your thumb all the way up into your voice box, and it will come out
As a tear in your eyes, because all the sadness is coming out. The sly hat has taken all my happy ideas. There are only sad stories left in me. I can only cry.
And just when you think all the tears are all gone and there's only sadness, then the sly hat will park outside your house in her little yellow boat and will give a gift and blow.
Órla, it's ringing on my door. Should I open?
She's very polite. She's going to let her in the door and see what happens.
I am the sly hat. I took all your fat, all, and now you have no voice. All the great stories, all the happiness, everything is here on my head, and I took it all from you. And that was our story. And for the next half an hour, you can only hear my stories because I sucked all the ideas from Órla.
Luckily, when you clap, you open the doors and all the stories come flying out again. Thank you, Mia. Thanks, everyone.
Wow. Wow, you should think that this one has been written by some philosopher or somebody.
Absolutely,
Yeah?
absolutely.
Wow.
The
It was
sly
so
hat.
deep. It was so deep. Thank you for that great idea about the sly hat.
Yeah,
It was
and I
almost
see
telling itself.
we're going to need some more ideas in a moment as well. So what we did in that one is one of us took the story, and we're going to play around with a slightly different feel now, where maybe we give the story to the other person. So we just pass it on. So it's a little bit of a different energy. 2 philosophers. Yeah, I'm going to take that. 2 philosophers. So let's get another adjective, something that describes a noun, a descriptive word, and stick it in the chat there first. Let's see what we have. Flaky. Okay, we got flaky. I like flaky. That's the first one I saw. And let's get a noun. A person, place, or thing. Still seeing lots of adjectives. Squelchy. The flaky button. Flaky? So flaky can mean 2 things. Flaky can mean flaking apart, or flaky can also mean not very organized. You're a little bit of a flaky person. You're not very organized. Okay. So I think I start this one.
Mm.
Caroline lived in a little cottage in the country. She loved her little cottage. She had little geranium boxes on the window. She had a thatched roof. She had a vegetable garden. And she made all her own clothes. In fact, sometimes friends would ask her, will you sew something for me? Or will you knit something for me? Because she was really, really good at this. And she made a little bit of extra money from this.
Caroline was working all day long by taking all sorts of orders from neighbors and people around the village. She would sit there and sew, and then she would bake the bread that somebody ordered, and then she would make the drinks and the cocktails, and then she would write a book, and then she would also do all kinds of things in 1 hour.
It was coming up to Christmas, and of course, people were ordering presents like cardigans and shirts and ties and hats. And Caroline found herself very, very busy. She didn't really have enough time to clean her house, and her house got very messy. And she was sewing and sewing all the time. And one day she found she had run out of buttons. She had no buttons to put on her shirts. And she looked around. Maybe she said, I can improvise some kind of a button.
And then she went out of her house, which she very rarely do because she has so much business to do, and she ran out of the house to look for buttons. She looked to the sky and saw the sun. What a wonderful button that sun was. She looked at the sun and she just knew she needed that golden light and beautiful, beautiful button. And she put her hands up in the air
And lifted the sun down from the sky and took it inside and began to sew it to a beautiful cardigan that she was making for Mrs. O'Reilly's son. Well, of course, it was a beautiful button, but overnight the sun burnt all the wool from the cardigan and it melted. And the sun got a bit bored sitting in the cottage and made its way back up to the sky. She still needed a button. She needed now to make a new cardigan and more buttons. So out she went.
looking for the moon. And there she grabbed for the moon. Oh, I want to make a wonderful, wonderful shirt out of this moon. And she began to sew with the moon in front of the t-shirt. It was such a beautiful, but the moon made the whole t-shirt so dark that it was all pretty scary to sit there and sew at night. And she got so scared because the night was all over her while she sewed the moon on the t-shirt.
So she let the moon go out the window. It's all right, she said. I don't need you as a button. But still, she needed at least one beautiful button to finish a piece. And she saw a twinkling star. She reached up to the sky and plucked the star that twinkled on and off and on and off and began to sew.
And she made a beautiful, beautiful shirt with stars all over, star lightning, and everything was good until the star was being too beautiful. It would be more beautiful than the one that would wear it, and it ran off. And then she found out that there were only 2 buttons that would stay. So she took off her eyes and she began to sew the button on the shirt. Her own 2 eyes.
Her eyes were emerald green and beautiful, and of course these, while a little creepy, were the most beautiful buttons that anyone had ever seen. They had to agree. She gave the shirt to the owner, and she sat in her house, now unable to see, but she kept sewing. And one day that shirt was in the village, and that shirt walked by somebody that she knew, somebody that she liked. and that shirt couldn't help itself but winked at the young man passing. And of course, when a button winks, it opens. And the lady who was wearing the shirt, all of a sudden, her shirt fell off. This would not do.
Good. That's when she began to sew with the heart of herself. She took off her heart and she began to sew the heart of a new t-shirt. And after that heart, she took off her brain and she began to sew with the brain. And after the brain came
her ears, 2 beautiful round ears made almost like ivory, and they would fasten the big cape of a merchant, and he loved it. In fact, he could hear about all the bargains in his town, even better than before because of his ear buttons. But still, she hadn't enough buttons. So one by one, she picked all of her organs out. Her liver was full of courage. Her spleen, her spleen made a strange button, until finally there was nothing left of her organs.
but her hands. So finally she took her own 2 hands and put them on the t-shirt, waiting for somebody to come by and do the rest.
And ever since that day, if you see a t-shirt with 2 thumbs up like this, it could be her. And that's our story. Oh, there's a lot of messiness in those buttons.
Yeah, but well, you can buy the t-shirt on www.handson.dk.
.dk. Yeah, it's a Danish.
It's a Danish brand.
Yeah, we need the Danish.
Because I stole it.
They're not afraid of goriness or blood. They're fine with all that stuff. They're fine with all that horror. So Mia, maybe will we involve our audience a little bit? Do you want to ask for their help if people want to turn on their videos?
I like to ask for the help. I like to ask. I will give you like 15 seconds, audience, and then I will ask you to bring one item or thing, and then show it to Órla, and then she would be inspired, and maybe she will take all the things that she sees, or maybe she will just take one thing. But I give you 15 seconds, and I will count down from 15, and you have to go and find the thing now. 15, 14,
and turn on your videos.
13, 12.
I see Mike. I see
11,
John.
10, 9, 8, 7.
There's still some
6,
people. Come on.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, Órla, now I want you to take a good look on the items that you see on the screen. And I want you to let the things come out like a shower on your brain and your body, and take it all in and tell us a very inspiring story. Not more than 3 minutes, I think.
Okay, we'll see what happens. Thank you, everyone. You can turn off your videos. That's awesome.
Can you just tell us this before? What did you see, Órla? Just
you'll see them in the story. You'll
Okay.
see them. I think you'll see them. Maybe I'm inspired by some. Thank you, everyone. Nicole, you're gonna. Did you have something? You came late to the party. Did you have something? Okay. All right. It was a while ago, not today nor yesterday, when there was a rule in the village that made it illegal for spoons to get married to each other unless they were from the same spoon tribe. You see, many, many, many years before this, there had been the Great War of Spoons, where the wooden spoons had fought the metal spoons, and things had been disastrous, and many spoons had died. So now there was a bitter, bitter rift in the land of the spoons. And of course, as happens in these stories, when two spoons fall in love, they don't know these divides. And such was the case. A beautiful, strong, handsome wooden spoon was walking through the village one day and fell in love with this delicate, metal, filigreed spoon. In fact, she was more like a strainer. She was almost like the royalty of spoons. And they knew their love could not be together. So they decided to run off into the forest, to elope, to find somebody to marry them. Because if they were married, they couldn't be broken asunder. They would be married. But the marriages were forbidden. So in the dark of night, they ran off into the forest, but quickly realized that there were no street lights or lamps in the forest, and they could hear animals howling, and they could hear dogs barking, and they feared that somebody would dunk them in a bowl of porridge and they would drown. And they asked for the help, you know who? They asked for the help of the fairies. And the fairies answered them because they loved the fact that love was the thing with the spoons. And the fairies each took out their fireflies and they began to perch their fireflies on little gossamer spider webs to light the spoon's way through the forest to the home of the wise woman who would marry them. And they found their way to the cottage, and the wise woman opened the door, but she wasn't what they were expecting. She was bent and gnarled and had been in the woods for a very long time, and all she wanted to do was to have a set of nice spoons for herself. And the spoons were terrified, and they ran again into the forest, but the wise woman caught them and took them back into her home. Please, please, don't keep us, said the spoons. Just marry us and let us go. I want something in return, she said. And the spoons knew what they could do best. And they put their heads together and began to dance. And they began to weave in and out and pour ingredients of the most beautiful loaf of bread that anyone has ever seen. And they put it in the oven. And the wise woman took her gnarled mitt and reached into the oven and pulled out the most delicious cake you have ever seen. And she tasted it. And as soon as she tasted it, she uttered the words, "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to join these two spoons in union." And the spoon.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Órla. I'm gonna interrupt you because now you're.
I was trying to get phones and other things in there, but yeah, the story runs away with ourselves. Brilliant.
Wow. So what inspired you most? What word was what? It was a spoon that.
It was a spoon. John had something that looked like a lovely strainer, but I couldn't quite see. And that's the thing about offers, I think, in improv. Sometimes somebody might suggest a word or have an object, and you have no idea of the real use of this object. So
it was a tea caddy spoon.
It's a tea caddy spoon. Lovely. She's very posh. I loved her, John. I loved her. And then I saw Mike's lovely mitt as well. So I was sort of, sometimes your brain runs ahead of you visually and your mouth is talking and your brain is somewhere else. So that's lovely. I'm going to challenge Mia. So can I ask the audience to come back again for a moment? Anybody who'd like to turn their camera on? And lovely. I'm going to ask you to take about 10 seconds to find something that is the color of the sea. Just find something beside you that's the color of the sea. Anybody else wants to have it? Sarah's there. Sarah's gone looking. John is something. Oh, beautiful. Thanks, John. And maybe I will do that. Oh. Okay, and I think we have Sarah there. Ooh. Ooh, beautiful. Okay, Mia, do you think you have enough?
Yes, I'm just curious with this Sarah thing. What is this? Is it like glass? Yeah, it's glass. Okay.
All right, Mia, off you
I
go.
found it in the sea.
Yay!
Wonderful. Thank you for that. So, should we say 3 minutes maximum? You just stop me, Órla, whenever.
I will interrupt you.
Okay. Okay. The waves were big and beautiful and blue. The waves were coming in like waves do. The waves know how to be waves because they've just been waves forever. Under the waves lie things that are beautifully hidden. Under this wave, this Wednesday in the year 1980, a little blue bottle was transforming itself into something else. Was transforming itself into a blue piece of glass with no hole inside, just a very strong blue piece. And one day, Christina went to the beach and found that blue piece. She took it into her hand and she looked at it, and there she could see her own future. She saw herself getting married, having 2 children, living in a big house. Even though she was just 10 years old, she saw her future in that piece of glass. She showed it to her mother, and her mother thought she also saw her future into that glass. She saw that she would have 2 more children, and she saw that she would read lots of books, and she saw how she would be so happy, and everybody who looked in that piece of glass would see her own future or his own future. And the future would only be nice, even though you had a very bad destiny. If you just looked into that piece of glass, your future would change into something so wonderful and beautiful and poetic. But one day, the piece of glass broke. And out of it came the plastic bag. And the plastic bag wanted to strangle all the people looking in it. And it put itself on the heads of the people who would look into the future. And it wanted to spoil the future of all the people. It was so dangerous. But one day, there came a hole in the plastic bag. And that was a good thing, because then it could not strangle the people anymore. And the people that were strangled would live up again and get out of this mess, this plastic mess. And from that day on, people would go to the beach and take up all the plastic instead. And that's how we ended up today. When we take up all the garbage and stuff, we take all plastic bags. So people, remember to take all the garbage from the beach before it strangles you. Get it before your neighbor. And the little piece of glass, keep looking for it, because if you find it, you know that your future will be so wonderful, and even a little bit more wonderful than your life already is. A little bit. Even though you might be happy, you will be slightly happier if you find that blue piece. Yes. So right now, Sarah has the blue piece. So find Sarah wherever she lives, because if you look into it, you will find happiness. So Sarah, wherever you are, people will knock on your door.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Mia, let's end up, let's challenge ourselves just to do a 1-minute story, or like a 90-second story, and we'll both tell it. Let's have our audience give us a title into the chat, whatever you fancy.
Yes.
I know one of our audience had to go and do a show, so she's gone away. So just give us a couple of words, audience, if you're still there. There's a few of them still there, and we will tell a very short. Give an adjective and a noun if you like, whatever you like, or a title, or just throw us a word. I think we may have strangled the audience. Hopefully we didn't. Pie. Pie. Okay. The most delicious pie you can ever find is an apple pie, but the apples must be picked from the highest mountains.
The apple pie was so tasty that you could smell the apples even though it was miles away. People would just smell it. Oh my God.
This apple pie was so delicious that it also gave you magical powers. You sprouted wings and could fly over many, many rivers and canyons. And in the apple pie was the secret ingredient of silver.
Yes. And if you had a little bite of that apple pie, your best wish would come true straight away. So if you were a kid wanting to have a family, you would straight away be adult and have a family around you.
And if you were an old person and wanted kids around you, they would appear at your door, knocking and knocking and knocking. And if you wanted a hat,
you don't want a hat, I promise you, because the hat would take your brain. So let's skip the hat. But if you want to be young again and you are old, in 1 second you would be young and you will start your life all over.
you would be back in a time where there was no plastic bags on beaches. You would be back in a time where everything was blue and the color of a clear Mediterranean sky.
And if you wanted to be God, you could. In 1 second you could be God and you could demand whatever you wanted. And if you wanted to be the world, you could in 1 second be the world. Or if you wanted to be Jesus, you could be Jesus. If you wanted to be yourself,
you had to take a deep breath, look up, and chew the pie. But if you got greedy and took more than one slice of pie, things could go very badly.
And so it did to George. George, he wanted to be dead and he died.
Kathleen wanted to be a dog and she was a dog. And of course, she couldn't ask for apple pie in her dog voice.
And the dog wanted to be president, and so it happened in America.
And now, ever since that day, apple pies are banned from dog food. And that's our story. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, that was a true story again. We only told true stories today, Órla. What happens?
I know.
It's amazing.
So there you go, John.
Well,
John, that's us. That's us. We've created enough madness. Hey, Sarah.
Well,
Hi.
thank you both. That was completely off the wall.
Thanks, Bianca.
Magnificently off the wall and left field.
Look at the apple pie. Sarah has an apple pie.
Chicken.
Sarah, I'm missing your table. I've got to get up there after lockdown.
You know we'll feed you well, John.
Yeah, I know. Right, well, thank you both. And we've got some great stuff coming up. We've got Sharon Carr from America on Friday at 6 o'clock with our regular children's thing. And then we start with then on Saturday evening. We've got Anna Badika with music and dance and sort of story. And then we start at Sunday. We got the first of our Australian series. So if you're in Australia, it's okay. It's 7:30 in the evening when it goes on. But if you're here, it's going to be 10 o'clock in the morning. We've got Joe Hemwood live on 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. So if you wake up, Bianca, actually, Abdu, it's probably the Romanians are probably going to give you to you because they're drawing lots and they're probably deciding they don't want to do first thing on Sunday morning. So there's, it's okay. No, I'll let the technicians argue it out between them, and so it's great. We got and we got Greece coming in on. I think it's great. Yeah, we got no, it's not. But we got a completely new person on Saturday at 2 o'clock. Sharon Jackstees. It's just too much. There's just too much. We we just got person after person after artist after artist after artist. Just got to go to the schedule. Come to the cafe, relax.
John, it's like the TV
Great
Times.
time.
Wow, look at this.
It's like the TV Times ad. I never knew there was so much in it.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mia and Órla.
Thank you so
John,
much.
for
Thank you
hosting.
both. Amir,
Thank you,
you
guys.
come and do a full set for us sometime.
Yes.
I'll get in touch with you. We'll get a date. I'll make a date with you. Brilliant. Bye.
Thanks for the potatoes, Mike. We're about to eat them.
Take care, everyone. Bye.